I believe that the budget is evidence of the growing maturity of the Executive. We sought to achieve complete consensus around the Executive table, and while it did not prove possible, at least no minister voted to oppose the budget. I understand that with less than 6 months to the next Assembly election, it's always possible that some may choose to play politics with the budget. But the search for unanimity around the Executive table cannot hold back the delivery of a budget which will allow departments to plan for the future. We may not have a budget endorsed by all 5 parties on the Executive, but crucially, we have a budget for the next 4 years. In these difficult economic times, this is not the time to play politics with people's lives. This is a time for us all collectively to step up to the mark and to take responsibility for the decisions that we have to take. That's what we were elected for, and that's what I have sought to do in constructing this budget. The capacity of the Executive and ministers to think imaginatively in months and years ahead will play a significant factor in determining how much we can improve on the present allocations. Mr. Speaker, we are also taking significant steps to limit the pressure on public expenditure without affecting frontline services. At this time of limited employment opportunity in the private sector, it is essential that we seek to protect jobs in the public sector. That is why we will mirror the UK Government's arrangements for public sector pay and put a freeze on annual inflationary increases for all those earning over £21,000 for the next 2 years. We are also putting a moratorium on civil service recruitment, other than in exceptional circumstances, and I believe that there is consensus among ministers in these current times. All ministers agree to an arrangement that equates to a voluntary salary reduction. We are also taking action in the area of the use of consultants. In the last few years, the annual spend on consultants has been reduced from £42 million in 2006-2007 to £21 million in 2009-2010, but we want to go further. For the budget period, the Executive has agreed a target of year-on-year reductions of 10% for consultancy spend, and all proposed consultancy spend of £10,000 or more will require specific prior approval from the relevant departmental minister. And in that way, of course, we can keep track of what is happening with consultancy spend. In addition, the Executive will take action on arm's-length bodies, or quangos, as they are also known. The Budget Review Group will review all of the arm's-length bodies against agreed criteria and bring a final set of recommendations to the Executive in anticipation of a final decision in May to facilitate a bill to rationalise quangos early in the next Assembly term. Mr. Speaker, there are specific announcements that will be welcomed across Northern Ireland. In the last budget, the Executive froze domestic regional rate in cash terms for 3 years. We also deferred the introduction of water charges, and as a result of those 2 decisions, the average household in Northern Ireland is £1,600 better off over the term of this Assembly than would have been the case under direct rule. While a continued real terms cut in the domestic regional rate is unsustainable in the present fiscal environment, I am committed to protecting household budgets, and I therefore propose that domestic regional rates will only increase by inflation over the next 4 years. That modest increase is well below the trend for the last decade. Mr. Speaker, I also announce that the Executive has no plans to introduce separate water charges during this budget period. As a result, Northern Ireland householders will continue to have the lowest household bills in any part of the United Kingdom. And we will continue to help business too. I propose that the non-domestic regional rate should also be limited to inflation increases over the budget period. In terms of industrial derating, I propose continuing over the course of the budget with the 30% cap on the liability for manufacturing. I'm also pleased to announce in this draft budget it includes the provision for the assistance package for the Presbyterian Mutual Society savers. Yeah. This is financed by an additional £175 million of borrowing under the Reinvestment and Reform Initiative in 2011-2012, a contribution from the Treasury of £25 million, which is matched by an equal contribution from this Executive. When the proposals are implemented, this will put an end to the long nightmare faced by PMS savers.